Welcome to another episode of the Tesla Motors Club podcast. I'm Lewis,
I'm Mike.
and Doug is muted. All right, perfect.
I'm back.
Hey, Doug. On today's episode, we're going to finally be talking about the elusive, the wonderful, the why did it take so long to get FSD Beta. We are all in the beta. I hope you guys are excited for that. So we'll get into some of our personal experiences and things going on there. There's also been this new debate coming out of California about what's the best time to charge. So we'll talk into that a little bit. Tesla's now officially released the CCS adapter, so that'll be interesting. And AI Day is coming up, so there's going to be some interesting things on that. All right, episode 21 starts now. We are back. How are you guys today?
I'm doing just fine.
Everything's good. So, all right, FSD Beta, guys. Like FSD Beta, we've been hyping up about this. I spent way too much money to get into FSD Beta with my car when I bought it. I got hit on the 12 grand when I bought it with my car. So it's been a while, and I have to say, I have not actually used it yet. I apologize. So this will be a lot of Mike and Doug experiences on this. I was on vacation in Hawaii the last 2 weeks. I literally got back to my house an hour ago. I updated my car software while I was gone. Have not driven it yet. I did sit in my car and like pet it lovingly when I got home though, because let me tell you, I definitely
we missed you, baby. We missed you.
Driving rental cars for 2 weeks when you have a Tesla and then you drive normal cars for two. Oh my God, it was infuriating. It was really painful. So anyway, okay, we finally got the beta. Most people that opted in now have access to the beta. Maybe we should just quickly touch on this. Elon tweeted saying everyone was going to get beta as long as they had an 80% or higher score in US and Canada. And obviously you've either purchased FSD or you subscribe. That doesn't appear to be true. It seems that many people have gotten into the beta, but there's a few caveats that we know of. One, software versions. The current beta is off of 2022.20, and if you had newer than that, there's actually 2022.24 and a 2022.28. If you're on either of the newer branches, I'm sorry, they will not downgrade your software to get you into beta. So you will have to wait for a future beta invite when the beta software catches up to the version you're on. So keep that in mind for your software updates. And then there's also been some drama potentially around hardware versions. There's some folks that claim they've upgraded their hardware. They did buy the upgrades to hardware 3. We got a comment from a viewer on the last podcast basically saying, why haven't they gotten to the beta? They paid for the hardware upgrade. They have the safety score, all that kind of stuff. My only guess there, and just I don't know if Mike, if you have any other thoughts, but my only guess are you have to have 100 miles of autopilot driving in the last 30 days. And there's a way to see that in your software when you go into your score. There's a little icon that you can click on, a little eye indicator. It'll tell you how many autopilot. So that's one thing that's required. And then also, again, you have to have the correct hardware and you can't be on a too new of a version of software. Now, I did see someone report that they think they paid and upgraded their software, and they believe they put in the wrong repeater cameras. Because when they investigated why they didn't get into beta, it turns out they posted saying the repeater cameras are wrong. So I don't know. I would maybe complain to Tesla, talk to them, find out what's going on there. But that is also a possibility. But otherwise, I have no idea why you're not in beta, because everyone else I know that, again, not too new of a version, wasn't in beta, had an 80% score. US, Canada did get in. A lot of people got in. So they're claiming it's something like an additional 60,000 people or something like that over the original 100,000. But anyway, we'll see. So let's dive in. Let's talk about our experiences. And by our experiences, I mean, I'm going to live vicariously through Mike and Doug. And as soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to go play with it myself. Let's start with you. Let's see, Doug. We don't talk to Doug that often. You've been on before. Give us a little bit about how it's been going.
Sure. Well, I got the update and I had it update overnight, and I was very excited to try it out. And I've used it a bit. It was certainly scary at first, and it shocks me a little bit that however many people that have access to this. Like I tend not to think everybody should be using this. Maybe the 80, the score of 80 and above is enough of a filter, but it definitely takes some getting used to. I've used navigate on autopilot and all the sort of autopilot lane keeping features quite a bit for a while, and I feel very comfortable with them because I know what they can do and where they're likely to fail, and so that seems like something that's predictable to me. So I very often am engaging it, disengaging it, changing lanes, anticipating, oh, that's something it's not going to do a good job with. Here, I'm like, okay, what is it doing? Now, after using it for a few days, I've gotten a little better idea about, what it can do.
Do you find the new visualizations help you in trying to understand what the car is doing? Because people talk about that. The visualizations are much better.
Yeah. So the visualization gives you an idea. Okay, what is it thinking about? But that also freaks me out also, because you see this blue line about where it's going. And sometimes it's dancing all over the place.
Wiggling all over, yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to go straight, I'm going to turn left, I'm going to turn right. And it's like, okay, which are you about to do? And the steering wheel is jerking all over the place too, like in real time with that. It's like, maybe calm down. Maybe choose a path and just do that path. So that I found,
little ADHD on the FSD Beta.
Yeah, that I found freaky. There are things where, okay, somehow it gets the wrong speed limit. And just last night I was riding it, and somehow I thought the speed limit was 55, but the speed limit was 30. And and it was like taken off. I'm like, okay, I gotta dial this back. So you really need to be on top of it. I would say, there are a whole bunch of little things it gets wrong. I had it turn right on red when it was you weren't supposed to turn right on red, that kind of thing. But I would say the two things are that I find the worst about it. One is the creeping in at an intersection. Humans might do that, but it's freaking everybody out. They're like, are you going or not going? And you're just creeping in. And especially when it's where I got a stop sign and the other direction has a yield, it freaks those people out. Anybody coming out. So I either have to just stop it. The other thing is you can just step on the accelerator. When it is your turn, just go ahead and step on the accelerator instead of waiting for everybody else to just be impatient with you.
I do that a lot now, even not in beta, right? Like, whenever the car is in autopilot or it's doing navigate or whatever, and I'm like, come on, let's go.
Well, that's what you have to do, though. Right? Oh, okay, you're talking about just speeding up, but when you come to a four-way stop, it'll come to the stop, and then
or even for lights, it'll stop for traffic lights, even with not beta. And then it'll turn green, and the car just sits there. And I'm just like, "Come on, dude, let's go."
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
That's actually been pretty good in my car as far as responding to the lights turning green. Now,
on the beta specifically.
Yeah. Now it has tried to stop on green lights. That's a little exciting.
So I would just say, just the other main thing that, and there are a whole bunch of little things that Tesla can tweak, but the second worst thing for me, besides the multi-stop situation, is where I'm making a left turn, and that's the car doing the left turn, by the way. So I'm making a left turn, and there's another car in the road that I'm going into making a right turn, right?
Yeah, it freaks out.
For that moment, it sees that vehicle as maybe coming right for me, right? Because it's moving towards me, but it's turning right, and I'm turning left, right? The car will freak out and will jerk to the right. And twice I've had to just grab the steering wheel because it's either going to slam me into there's some barrier to my right, or I'm going to go off, into a ditch. And it's guessing it's better to go into a ditch than have a collision from this car. But that car was never going to hit me, So, but I don't know how it's supposed to know, right?
I feel like it's definitely an issue with how the models currently predict velocity of what things are going to happen, because like humans have an intuition, right, where we go, I know what I expect, because I've had a lot of false front collision warnings, right? That was totally tanking my score for a while. It was a pain in the ass because cars would be turning out of my lane and I'm driving and it's like, oh God, we got a emergency. There's a car stopping in front of me. And it's like, I can see that he's going to move. I can see there's nothing there. I know it's fine. But the car doesn't have if the car isn't moving, it doesn't have any prediction on a velocity path. So it doesn't have that like intuition. And that's definitely probably an issue like you're seeing with the turns, I would guess, right? So like there's no intuition.
In this case, it's not that the car is stationary, it's that that other car is moving, right?
But it's not moving in a vector that it can know.
It's moving in a vector that's towards me, right?
That's towards you, right? It doesn't
know that it's turning. Maybe it should be looking at turn signals. Maybe it should know that guy's in a right turn lane, but it's freaking out too much at that point. So, and I have a full list of little things, but I'm curious to hear what Mike's impressions of.
Yeah. So before we get into Mike, I'm just curious, what type of environments were you driving in? Like, where was this? Was it in a city? Was this in a rural area?
So right now I'm in Ithaca, New York. I'm visiting Ithaca. This is it's a college town. And the roads are kind of terrible. Some are sort of brick cobblestone kind of roads. Most of them are really bumpy from, they always have potholes and the potholes get filled. And so the roads are really bumpy. And I feel the car slow down for speed bumps. Great. It's not slowing down for potholes. and it's not slowing down for a bumpy road. And sometimes, there are people parked on both sides and there's not necessarily a lot of space for people to go both directions. And still in those situations, it's going too fast. It's going faster than I would go. And so, it's not, so it's weird. It's too cautious in some situations and not cautious enough in others. And, another thing that kind of gets me is when it's making a turn, often it's initiating that turn too late. Like it's starting it really late. So it has to make a very sharp turn and it's gunning it when it like mid-turn, it's gunning it. And so it's like, why are you hitting the pedal so hard at that point? And I'm really worried I'm about to hit the opposite curb, and I see that curb coming up. Haven't hit it yet, but it freaks you out. So
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the Northeast perspective, college town area.
Yeah.
Let's go to Mike. How are things in California, Mike?
Hey, welcome from Orange County, suburbia America. We've put the beta through some very interesting trials in the last week. So I got a twofer when I got the beta. I swapped out ECU, and when the software started to download, I looked up the number, which is 2022.20.17.
Correct.
And I looked at the README file. Ooh, maybe this is the beta. So I sat there in the car as this thing is going clunk and clicks and turning on and turning off. I was telling some folks, I'm like pacing like I'm expecting a baby, hoping this is the beta showing up.
And let's just be clear for the viewers to clarify the version thing, because it's super confusing. There's the software version of the car.
That's
which
right.
is what you
That's
just
what
gave,
I just referred
2022, 2017. Right. And then there's the FSD Beta software version,
correct,
which I believe for 2022, 2017, the beta version should be 10.69.2.2.
I believe
so. That correct. Is the FSD Beta version. So,
nice.
So if people hear those different numbers,
and
just
I'm
know what that is.
And if it's worth anything to anybody, this is on a 2019 Model 3. So, I'm told the newer Ys are a little different because they got different hardware.
Sure. So you upgraded your hardware basically to be able to do this?
No. I upgraded the ECU for something else, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But I've got the original cameras. I did not get my cameras changed, even though they have light leaks. And the CPU, the MC, all that's the original 2019.
Okay.
So that's pretty much a newbie. So we got the beta installed and promptly took it out that day. The very first thing it failed on is a roundabout. It doesn't do well with a roundabout in my neighborhood. It literally sat there, steering wheel shook like Doug was talking about, and went in meltdown, says, I can't do this anymore.
So it actually decided to disengage.
Completely disengaged. I'm done. We're done. We can't go any further. So then I took it out into town, and I've got this. I come down a hill, which it did fine. Came down, it stopped at the light. Light turned green to go left, which is fine. It went out and it started to make the left turn, but it's a very sharp left. It's more than 45 degrees to make the left correctly. And it got about halfway through, and it got really confused because the road's got this angle to it, and there's cars on the side. Shake, shake, shake on the wheel, and then just basically, I don't know what the hell to do. Disengaged again in the middle of the
Interesting.
turn.
Oh, well, that's. Does it at least give you a good indicator that it's disengaging so that you know to take over?
Oh yeah, you get the wheel shake, you get the beeps.
Yeah.
You get this big red take over now on the screen. It's pretty dramatic about you having to take over. I think it even turns on the flashers, the emergency flashers.
That. Although I drive in the mornings a lot, early, like 4 a.m. and I use the Beta in the morning because there's like nobody else on the road, so it's a lot safer. And it's got a really obnoxious habit that when you engage FSD and the headlights come on, it goes to auto highs. And that's just annoying as hell in town, because you do have a few people coming the other way. And so the lights are constantly flickering up and down, up and down. And I just turn it off. I just manually go back to my normal low beams.
The guys in the UK are complaining about that a lot. About
I heard.
The auto,
it is obnoxious as hell.
And also the auto wipers.
Auto wipers, yeah.
No, I haven't seen the auto wiper. I have not seen the auto wiper yet, but
I've seen them. And actually, I'm pretty happy with the auto wipers recently. And also, it auto did auto wash too. I was like, oh,
didn't do that.
Yeah.
The one thing it didn't do is it didn't auto slow for the dip in the road.
Sure.
It tried to play Dukes of Hazzard going through a dip. Fortunately, I caught it. Yeah, that would have ended badly. It on the highway. I enjoy it on the highway a lot. I really do. It seems to be more stable in behavior than just autopilot.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm enjoying that. In fact, I even knew that when I first subscribed to the service before I got the beta, I kind of had that feeling. It had the impression it was more stable on the highway. What it does do that drives me just insane, though, is it wants to auto lane change like every 30 seconds. If there's a car in front of me in a free lane, it wants to change.
There's a setting to turn that off.
Yeah.
I personally experienced that as well. I experienced that as well, even without the beta. And I actually kind of like it because I wanted to pass people in my plaid. Otherwise, how do they know that I have a plaid, right? They got to see the badge on the back.
Yeah, the most aggressive mode of that is called Mad Max. Mad Max mode. Mad Max.
There is a setting under the autopilot settings where you can turn off auto lane change for slower moving traffic. And I've seen people recommend doing that because otherwise it'll also prevent you from taking exits. So it'll happen because I've seen this even with Navigate on autopilot where we'll go, oh, I need to pass this guy, but it doesn't realize there's a turn coming up, even though it knows there's a turn coming up, and it moves to the left and then goes, oh crap, I can't get back over to the right fast enough, and now I can't take the exit. Sorry.
I just had that last night.
Yeah. So I would probably recommend shut off that feature.
And it didn't merge.
Because you can always change lanes. Yeah, you can always change lanes if you want to, right?
Oh yeah, you hit the stalk and let it go.
So why do you need it to decide? I don't think it's this.
I appreciate it. I just have it set to be relatively mild about it. There's like a variance in how aggressive that feature is. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. It has several settings, and the most aggressive one is literally called Mad Max.
Yeah, I thought that was a joke.
No, it's not a joke. I mean, it is a joke somewhere, but it's literally
I will say I tested something that I'm actually really surprised how badly it did. So Model Y demographic is someone that usually has kids. You're going to be hauling a lot of stuff around. You're taking your kids to school, taking them home, all that interesting stuff. So I tried to use FSD to take my daughter to high school. And let me tell you, it completely melted down in the parking lot of the high school. Between the kids going every which way, cars everywhere, not paying attention to the rules, it just had an absolute mental breakdown. I felt kind of bad for it.
That doesn't surprise me. I feel like parking lots are going to be one of the last things they get well. You know, just because there's so many edge cases and there's so many, like you said, there's people walking, there's cars.
Oh yeah, I figured that was probably be one of the worst extremes I could come up with. To see
so it didn't work well.
It did not end well.
and Doug, did you experience that as well? Did you do some parking lot stuff?
Yeah, the parking lot situation, but it's something that to me that shouldn't happen. It's just that okay, you decide a path and then you go at the path, right? It seems to be trying to decide which way to go as it's going, and again, the wheels going all around, and this is like, late at night, hardly anybody around, but is it about to slam into that big concrete light pole, or what's it doing? It's acting really weird in those situations, but I feel like it's the path decision, like determining how it's going to go, the route.
Finding algorithm,
right? Well, but it seems to be changing real time instead of just deciding and going.
Right.
Because the situation wasn't changing. Nothing new was coming into the environment. It's just like as it's going, it's like, do I want to go this way or that way? I don't know. Let me just do both.
Interesting.
So Bruce Ma's got a comment about he doesn't use nav autopilot, makes bad decisions about when to change lanes and wants to merge into tiny gaps. Yes, brother. I hear your pain on that one.
I use it regularly and I'm fairly happy with it. It's just, when it does something I don't want to do, I just counter it. Or
well, I do too. Yeah, but the reality is, okay, I accept being a beta tester because that's what it's about, right? However, when I hear the fanboys going on about how great this is and how it's just it's almost ready for prime time,
level 5 tomorrow.
Not a chance in hell.
It's not. It's nowhere near. It's nowhere near ready.
It's definitely nowhere. Yeah, it's nowhere near ready for prime time. What I will say, so I agree with your comment, Bruce. I still use it though. I'm closer to Doug. I enjoy it. I feel like it makes when I'm doing the highway driving a lot more enjoyable. But I do find myself often like canceling, like it pops up and says, "Hey, I'm going to be changing lanes," and I'm like, "Never mind." So it's definitely, that could be annoying. So I am looking forward to the fact that the FSD Beta lets you tune that. I don't know. I'll have to see how that works. Blue Feather Nation has a comment. I want a refund for my purchase of SSD in 2017. All caps refund. It's obvious now that I'm never going to get anything for my money. I mean, I don't blame you in the sense of like, I feel like if I genuinely believed it was coming out soon and now we're talking 5 years later and I still don't have it and I spent a lot of money on it, I'd be pissed off too. I think it's something that Tesla is kind of doing as a discredit or, disservice to customers is if you buy into it's so close. This year, end of this year, it's going to be ready, right? Like they've been saying that forever. And the reality is no one knows when it'll be ready. No one. There's not you take all the smartest experts on the planet today, the best minds behind it across all the companies. No one actually knows when it's going to be available. They can guess and speculate, and there's probabilities of like when it might be, but Tesla doesn't necessarily market it that way, right? They sound more, Elon tends to be more definitive in his prediction.
Do you think it could this wider release that we now have, is that going to speed it up? Do you think the rate of it getting better will increase now that more people have it? Or is that more
No. I don't. I mean, I think because realistically, Tesla's problem is that they don't have enough data, right? They have enough data. They're not learning from all of us using it, really. Maybe they're learning a little bit. They're getting like some edge case feedback. They're finding out which edge cases are affecting more people. But it really boils down to, right, there's what was his name? There was an interview the other day or recently that I was just reading about just famous machine learning scientists who basically said, look, what they're doing is they basically have two approaches to solving it. And what everyone's doing right now is they're doing one of the approach. Like there's neural nets, throw data at it, get it to learn, right? Just train it up. Yep. That's only going to get so far, so fast. And everybody's kind of doing that. But the other thing they're all doing, and this is true of Cruise, of Waymo, Tesla, is they're also layering in these edge case logical blocks where they go, oh crap, in this scenario it doesn't work right. Let's just hard code some stuff that like figures out this
Just
one
this
edge
and
case.
that.
And they're literally just tackling one edge case after the other. And it's just like, okay, what are there?
But
10,000 edge
unsupportable.
cases?
Yeah. I mean,
Well, so here's the
unsupportable.
thing. So the argument is that approach will get you to probably at least level 4 faster than the alternative approach, than doing the neural net and training it approach. So it is an approach to get there, but it's not scalable in the long run. And eventually a new technique will come out that'll probably blow it out of the water. And the parallel was similar to how before deep learning, before modern machine learning techniques came around, how did we do images? How did we do text to speech, all those other things? There's a lot of like, yeah, there was a computer learning part, but it was really small. And there's all these manually layered things on top. And then somebody came up with, oh, I could do convolutional neural nets. And suddenly it did way better than all that manual crap people were doing.
Yeah.
So they're kind of viewing it as the same. Like until somebody comes up with a better approach, you're not going to win. And that better approach could be 20 years from now, 50 years. Like there's no way to know how long that's going to take, right? It's like a breakthrough type thing. So the manually fixing the edge cases is the only way we iteratively know how to get closer and closer to get there now. And that's what all the companies are doing. And it's going to work. I do think it's going to work. It's just it's a lot of money and a lot of time. It's not a scalable long-term solution. So anyway.
I would say that the only difference here is that Tesla has already sold it, right? We've already bought and paid for it.
Yeah,
right?
well,
Right.
they've not only
they have
sold
to
the
deliver.
software, but they sold the claim of what it can do.
Right. And the guy that wants a refund, I mean, he should want a refund with interest, right?
Tesla's has money for 7 years.
You gave a loan basically to Tesla. Even if you were to get a refund, they were they were profiting off of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, just to reset, I think what Tesla's doing is still really impressive. I think there is improvement. I do think it's getting better. I don't regret my purchase, but I went into it knowing that in my ownership of my car, I do not ever expect it to be a robo-taxi. I know that is a claim that I personally, as an engineer, do not believe is going to be possible in the ownership time of my car.
I got it on the $2,000 FOMO sale. So,
right.
That was a while back.
So you bought it early. But yeah, I bought it as a cool toy, a cool, engineering thing. Let's see how it improves. But if you genuinely are like, yeah, it's gonna be robotaxi, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't blame some folks from affording and wanting refunds. I get it.
So
are you gonna get one?
I didn't buy it. I
no,
subscribed.
unfortunately not.
That's how trusting I am. I just subscribed to it.
Yeah, I guess there could be a lawsuit that
there is
there is
gets involved. Okay. Let's see.
Anyways, not ready for.
Let's see. We got a bunch of comments that came in. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just we're stirring the pot. We're stirring the pot. Let's see. So Dennis' comment says, biggest issue I have on FSD Beta is it not slowing down coming into small towns. In this case, basic AP does a great job slowing down as soon as the speed drops. Yeah, I mean, Doug mentions, having that issue. Sometimes he felt it's too fast. Maybe I won't feel that because I probably drive too fast as it is when I'm going through small towns. I definitely have a bit of a left foot. Well, even without the plaid, but that's why I bought it. No, but no, that's true. And the question I have there is like, Tesla does use mapping data, and so mapping data does have the speed. They don't use the super HD map stuff that like Waymo's doing, but they, not the geofence guys, but they do have map data that does have expected speed limits, not just based on cameras. I
always wonder about that map data, because many times I'll be driving along, say I'm not in the far right lane, and there's a truck there, and I see the speed limit down the street, but I also know where Tesla tends to read the speed limit and then integrate it, and that truck was in the way and it missed it. And then the next time the sign comes, it misses it again. It's like, okay, you should have a map somewhere and should be able to input this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the speed limit, they're not leveraging the map data for some reason. They do in some cases, but they don't. Like if they haven't seen a sign, then they seem to use the map data. And then it seems like as soon as they see a sign, they ignore map data completely until they see another sign that changes.
Yeah, and often it's like there'll be a speed limit that's for trucks only, and it doesn't get that distinction. And so now it's reduced the speed limit because trucks should only go 45 when everybody else can go 65.
Right.
So that's been a problem. And another issue was once it was actually like a road, like, I-80 or something like that. And however the that particular sign was done, it thought, okay, now the speed limit is 80 when the speed limit was, 65.
Now
Man, I wish I had more of those.
We're on the other end of that spectrum. So in our neighborhood, we have speed limit signs, but they're not a traditional speed limit sign. And the car absolutely refuses to recognize that speed limit sign. So it's trying to do 25 and a 15. And even 15 is kind of fast for a neighborhood because of how tight the roads are.
Sure.
So the FSD is pretty much useless within the neighborhood environment, or at least where I'm at.
I feel like it's going to be useless in my neighborhood just because there's no lines on anything, right? It's just
I don't have lines either.
It's a road, no lines.
The beta will work fine without the lines. That's most of the situation here. But often what it will do, though, it'll sit in the middle of the road. And it's like,
which I do anyway, to be honest. If there's no car coming, I mean, it is safer to be in the middle.
Well, and that's what it will do. And then when it sees the car coming, it will move over. And it's done some pretty clever things too. I've had it peek behind a parked car until the car passes, and then go.
Come back.
Things that you might have to do in a very narrow road. And it's kind of smart about that. So I'll give it credit.
I had to do that a lot in Hawaii. There's a lot of weird roads where it's like it's so narrow and you just wait. But yeah, okay. I mean, I'm looking forward to see it. I didn't expect it to work well in that situation. All right, we got more comments here. Let's see.
We do.
So R. Hassan said, I think autopilot for jet aircraft was easier than designing FSD for cars. No question. I mean, if you just think about the scope of the problem,
right? A lot less traffic.
Autopilot is easy because on a plane it's super easy. So yeah, definitely. Mark sequence, Morgan Hill to San Jose to Fremont Factory. Some hiccups still on my commute to Tesla from San Jose and from San Jose to Morgan Hill. I think that some instances would be better mapped by now. I mean, we don't know what they're leveraging map data for. So again, what I will say is Tesla is not using people driving. I could be wrong, but my personal belief and understanding from the reading I've done, the people I've talked to, they are not taking the feeds from all of your cars and using that to figure out how to drive in those areas, right? Even like the famous,
that left-hand
what's
turn.
it called? The left-hand turn, the unprotected left or whatever. They, there's footage. They spotted Tesla employees going there to record the data themselves for testing it. They're not going, oh, look, other people that have cars there, this is how it did, and we'll use that. I think that I don't know how it's the rate of which it'll improve. Certainly, hopefully, Elon says 3.3 is much better. We'll see how that goes. Let's see. NA.
Not available.
Yeah, I don't know what if North America. We'll go with North America. I am on a 98 score here in the Bay Area and still waiting for FSD. Hope it happens soon for people like me. We're waiting. So again, we spoke about it a little bit early in the episode. There's some criteria which won't let you get in. I will say this. It's possible no one else is getting in at this point. So when I bought my Plaid, when I got it, they had just opened up FSD to anybody that was above a certain score. 2 days later, it took me 2 days to get enough driving to get the score and have the miles. They already hadn't let people in anymore. So they let people in last week. It's very possible no new people are getting in right now, period. Oh, you missed the window, possibly. It is likely they will let more people in with 0.3. I could see them doing more and more people with each of these version releases. And I do think that Tesla expects to actually do a wide release for everybody that purchases FSD by the end of this year. Elon said that. I actually think he plans on carrying through with that. Because, I mean, look what they did now, right? Now do I think it's ready for all those people? I'll agree with Doug. No, I don't think it is. But anyway, it's really weird. But anyway, let's see. Anything else you want to cover? Any final thoughts, guys? Liking the beta? Do you regret having the beta? Are you planning on shutting it off?
I plan to give it a couple more months on the subscription and see what I can do with it. I mean, the reality is the autopilot function serves my needs for probably 85% of my driving. I mean, the FSD is a nice to have. Do I need it? No.
Sure. Okay.
I like it. One of the things that it does for me, especially around here, is, okay, how do I get to somewhere? And you have to deal with the navigation. And I like that piece of me having to worry about, okay, where am I going, kind of taken away. Okay, here's the location. Now, at this point, okay, it's it's going to make a turn here. Let me help it make the turn. Let me make sure it doesn't screw it up. But but it's still figured out where to go. And so now it's kind of like when I go on a long drive with the Navigate on autopilot. It's I'm basically babysitting the system, ready to take over. But me having to worry about the navigation is a piece that I don't have to really be so concerned about, because it's not really a safety issue so much. And then that total load is less. So like I said, when I first got it, I was like, man, this is more effort than me just driving, because I don't know what it's going to do. As I'm getting more understanding about, okay, what things, I mean, I'm ready at any moment, but as I'm getting more used to, okay, it's maybe likely to freak out here, or it's probably going to be okay with this. I get a little more comfortable with it, and it's becoming better. I'm looking forward to, like, when I drive from here, when I go back towards DC from here, I'm looking forward to that trip where, okay, I'm leaving and I've started it, and it's going to get me all the way to the freeway, and then go on the freeway, and then take the exit, and then get to my final destination. I'm interested to see how it actually handles that full component, as opposed to what it normally is me taking over once it exits the highway. I want to see that transition. Like, okay, it was just traveling, at 65 miles an hour, and now it's taking an exit. And actually already on normal Navigate, or normal autopilot, I often find it taking exits a little fast. So I'm a little curious what happens, like how will it make that shift,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Is it worth the money? I don't know. I would, if somebody is expecting it to like really drive for them, I'd say no. If someone was saying, oh, should I buy this now? I'd probably say no. I think the subscription model is probably pretty good in that, you can try it out if you're really curious. But
the price is right. $199 gets you everything, and you can start and stop at a moment's notice.
I feel like there's a real disparity between the rental price and the buy up front price. I mean, because it's
for sure.
You think?
Yeah, I mean,
here's the thing. I don't. Well, one, they're probably going to raise the rental price at some point. But right, they said they were planning on doing that. But I don't think that the subscription is worth it yet until it's wide, because you pay for it to then have to do the games of the score and the hoping they open it up to get in, right? Yeah. So it's like you're going to pay for it for months and literally not get anything.
I paid for 3 months to get in.
Right.
That's what.
And you got lucky that they happen to let people in now, right? It could have been 6 months or a year. So yeah, I would agree. Like, obviously, it depends on how much the money means to you as well, right? Some people, to them, 15 grand is nothing, and it's like, okay, sure, spend your money on whatever you want. But yeah, I agree with Doug's assessment. All right, we got a few more questions, and then we'll tackle the next
next controversy.
So Adam asked, how does this compare with the Waymos of the world and their approach and their likely timeline? So, not to get too technically specific, what I would say is the Waymos of the world, Waymo and Cruise, are already doing robotaxi service.
Already level 4.
They're already level 4. So by that definition, they are ahead of Tesla. However, it's geofenced only in specific locations. In fact, Cruise just started driving here in Austin now. You can robotaxi with Cruise. But again, it's geofence is restriction and limited. So Tesla, I feel like, is doing a really good job in the general case. Like, when Tesla gets far enough along, it'll work basically everywhere, at least in North America. Again, other markets and things, it might take more time. Whereas Cruise and Waymo and those, they have to map and keep doing all these things in those specific areas. And the problem is when you're doing like stuff like robotaxi, when there's an issue, right? We keep having all these famous things of like, oh, Cruise cars just stopped in San Francisco and now they're just stuck and they don't do anything, right? Like, so at least Tesla has a driver still, so you can do something with the car. But I mean, it's hard to say like who's going to win. Realistically, I feel like Waymo and Cruise are probably farther along, just from my own opinion. But again, different approaches, they'll hit their own walls and there's limitations, and Tesla is more broadly applicable because they're not specifically doing it to an area. But anyway, okay, so we also got, let's see, Laurent Grossman, here in Europe, we have the option of buying enhanced autopilot for half the price of FSD. Absolutely. They actually have that in North America as well now. That was a recent thing a few months ago. To me, again, it depends on the money. Like, to me, I think the functionality that enhanced autopilot gives you is most of what I want.
Looks like we lost Lewis.
I think we did.
There he is.
But
hey, Lewis, you hiccuped for a sec. Maybe
you froze
yeah,
for a second.
Sorry. So I was going to say is, enhanced autopilot's available everywhere. I think the functionality there is mostly what I want. The city driving piece that FSD Beta gives you is cool, but that's not as important to me. It's like stop and go on the highway to me is like more important, right? So anyway, but yeah, so if that's worth it to you, by all means. And then also it makes FSD.
Yep, here we go again.
Oh, something up with Lewis.
A great face.
Yeah, nice face to pause on.
See, Tesla's listening in.
That's right. Like, you're not being positive enough. But I'll agree. I'll agree with what Lewis said. Was that yeah, I think enhanced autopilot is worth it. In fact, that's what I bought when I got the car, and I find it indispensable on a long
I agree.
Road trip.
And that was the aspect of the FSD subscription that I really enjoyed, was the fact I could drive from here to San Diego, which is like 100 miles each way, and especially at night. At the end of a long day, you're kind of tired. You're not at your peak, and you just kind of say, "Here, take me home."
Yeah,
I'll keep my hands on the wheel and make sure you're all right. But
it's a nice. I mean, it's a nice little crutch to help you along.
It is. I do like the autopilot.
I guess, do we have Lewis back?
Are you back?
I am back. I'm not on Starlink, but it seems like it right now. I actually have 5 gigabit fiber. It should not normally cut out like this.
Yeah, but you're in Tesla, Texas, so they're listening to you.
Right. They pulled the plug on me because I'm not fanboying hard enough. Yeah, so I agree with you, Laurent. Enhanced autopilot is totally worth it. Did you? Okay, so sorry. Did you? Well, I was cut out. Did you guys answer Mark's question about?
We did.
Okay,
we're ready to move on.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah,
Wait,
the $6 grand is a lot. The question about how does it work with no lines? Does it flip out or
FSD? Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the talk. It manages it, but it often goes to the center of the road where there are no lines, and then moves over if another car is coming, which isn't really the way I would do it.
Right.
Well,
depends on the road. I definitely feel like on a lot of roads, I like to do that if it's a smaller road, right? If it's like a really wide road, then I don't do that because it's stupid.
Well,
but
you do want to be careful. So today's incident before this podcast for myself was coming up a hill, heading into the sun. Okay, this was early morning, and I suspect what happened is the lines in the road went away, as far as the camera was concerned, because it wanted to change lanes, and so I let it, but then it kept going and changed the lanes into oncoming traffic, because that would have put me into the center of the road.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the question is, would it have done it if there were cars there? I don't know, but it's definitely,
again, it should have enough basic map data to know this is a two-way highway. I should be on the right side of the road.
Pretty good sized road going through town. This is not a little podunk alleyway or something.
I mean, it seems to know when there's a one-way street and how to turn if it's a one-way street. So, and I tend to think that's map data versus it reading the signs.
Well, I'll say, we'll definitely have more to talk on this topic, especially as I get my hands on it.
Oh yeah,
I do have a camera mount for my car because of course
I
do. So I will be recording and seeing how it goes. So
I recorded my first trip, and I was like, there's so many people doing this. I didn't feel like I actually had anything to add to the conversation there.
Yeah, that's fair. And maybe I won't either. Maybe we'll just have a few small clips that we'll throw on the podcast as B-roll while we're talking over.
Because we're newbies now, right?
We're brand new to this.
Just got it.
We're brand new to this, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, so Lewis.
Yeah, I we might have to cut the audio feed if I drop too many expletives. All right, so next topic that we wanted to talk about is there's been some drama. There's been some news articles. There's been various topics and conversations around what is the best time to charge?
That's right.
You know, on peak hours, off peak hours, during the day, at night. There's been all this drama. It's primarily coming out of California, I would say, mostly because they're a solar heavy grid area. But basically, there was a study that came out of Stanford, I think it was, and they basically published saying, you know what, they don't think people should be charging at night. They think people should be charging during the day. Their EVs in an environment like California. And so I mean we can talk about this a little bit. You know, I think you know, studies are studies, right? Like I believe in the way in which they approached and looked at it. Yeah, they probably that conclusion. There's some data to back it up. I think it kind of makes sense in an environment like California. Do I think it makes sense for everybody in all regions? Absolutely not. Especially when you're paying for your power. You know, if you have peak and off peak, you know, you wanna pay less. But I mean, the argument is this is really power. You know, we talked about this a little bit before in a previous podcast. Power has to be consumed as it's being generated, right? You can't just like if your power plant makes more power, it's just gone. It's just a waste. The fuel is burnt. You're releasing CO2 for nothing or whatever. So you need to use it. And so solar, for example, one of the big things is batteries, right? You need batteries to store the solar. And the problem is if you have solar and you have a lot of solar that not everybody's using it, well, you got to store it into batteries. And then if you charge your car at night, you're just transferring it from one battery to your car's battery. There's efficiency losses each time you do that. Why not just charge your EVs during the day when there's all that extra solar and you're just doing one transfer into batteries? It's more efficient. It makes sense. You don't need to build as many batteries, right? You don't have to invest in as many batteries for the power grid. So you're kind of like using the EV fleet as more battery storage for your grid. There's a lot of things there that make sense.
I would say also, just more realistically, there isn't that much battery storage yet. There's more solar than battery storage, and so if you're charging at night, you know, you're using whatever that your baseline supply, whatever the power company has set up for that baseline load, and that is typically you know, some kind of fossil fuel system that might be coal, that might be natural gas. And so that's what you're charging your car on. You know, and a lot of times, you know, many places have time of use and they make it cheaper, like, you know, from midnight to 9 a.m. or something like that. Dude, I can't understand why we can't move forward to a much more a better model, like a more real-time pricing model. I think of it like when I use, you know, like TMC is hosted on AWS, for example. And you can use spot instances, and the pricing for those change based on the demand, right? Yeah. So I would think basically, you know, if the power companies would give us that transparency and give us, say, okay, what is the real-time cost? You know, doesn't need to be by the minute, but it could be by the hour, say. But it should be by the minute, and our appliances should be smart enough, and I should be able to, just like on AWS, I can set up some rules. Okay, here's my price guidelines. You know, when do I want it? And if it goes above this bid, then, you know, screw it. You know, I'll do it later. And I should be able to, you know, say I want my dishes done, you know, within the next 12 hours or something. And, you know, once it gets below this threshold, then do it. And charging your car should be exactly the same way, especially something, you know, the load of charging your car is pretty much as, you know, the rest of your house for a lot of people. Right. So if you can just time shift it in a way that is convenient for you, and you can put, you know, I can say what my own rules are and just charge the car based on these rules. That would be great. So that's the solution. So not, you know,
right. I mean, what you're describing is the smart grid, right? Like, which they've been talking about forever.
Smart grid now.
Right. Yeah. As opposed to what they call it. Right, exactly. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this, Mike?
So I'm actually looking at the CA ISO page right now. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't understand what that page is, it's a web page that has got all kinds of cool information and data as far as power generation, power consumption, what the current supplies are, projected supplies, blah, 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 One of which is here in California, 54% is renewable. That's our energy supply. We pick that up solar primarily, and we start picking it up at 7 in the morning. That's when you see it ramp up. And it's pretty flat until about 5, 6 in the evening. So I think that's what's driving this, at least from a bureaucratic point of view, is they see the solar use going up and say we should take advantage of that versus the fossil fuels, which pick up the slack in the evening.
Right.
Our consumption is kind of follows the same. People come home at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Consumption goes way up. They're up until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, laundry, TV, AC, all that. And
Right.
it falls off pretty rapidly in the early morning hours. I think you could probably charge your car early morning, except you're doing on fossil.
Right.
But at 7, you're on renewable.
And it would be nice.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, like, when they have all that extra solar, what are they doing with it? They're selling it to other states,
They
for
are.
example.
They absolutely
And you
are.
need transmission lines to be able to handle all of that. And there's other fees and other things involved. It would be nicer for the local solar plants if they don't have to transfer the power somewhere else, because you don't lose all that power, right?
It would
You
be
get to
more
use it.
efficient.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
we've got 4, if I remember right, of the big mega solar plants up in the high desert. We've got a pretty good footprint.
Yeah. California's got a lot of solar. In fact, I was surprised so again, just in Hawaii, it was great. I was curious about their power generation while I was there, so we started looking into it. I was shocked how much most of their power comes from oil.
Yeah, it's oil that comes in on boats.
I was just
Yeah.
like, man, they just bring barges of oil in to do it. And I get it. They're trying to transition more to, I mean, I did see wind turbines. They're trying to transition more to solar and wind, and they do have plans to eventually get there. But like, they don't have a land, land is kind of an issue,
Yep.
there.
And
for
solar
sure.
takes a lot of land.
And solar takes a lot of land. So I was just shocked. But yeah, anyway, California doesn't have that problem. California has too much solar, if anything, at this point. And they're only getting more today. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. They probably, in California. Now the question is, do you guys have peak pricing rates? Do they charge you less? Okay.
So
are you paying more during the day?
So there's 3 plans you can be on.
Mm-hmm.
The plan I'm on today is tailored for an EV owner. Mm-hmm. And what that means is I pay one of 2 prices. I pay 16 cents a kilowatt, or I pay 48 cents a kilowatt. 48 cents is between the hours of 4 and 9 p.m. Pacific Standard.
Wow.
Everything else is 16 cents a kilowatt.
Okay. So really, you could charge your EV earlier in the day, and it's fine.
Which I do. I've actually got my smart switches set up to do just that.
Okay. So that makes sense. So yeah, so I mean, certainly then our advice to listeners would be, it's going to depend on where you live. It's going to depend on energy costs. In California, it certainly kind of makes sense to maybe do it during the day, so you're using that solar. But not all markets will be that way, and it'll change over time. So
I will add this for our listeners and viewers: pay attention to your superchargers that you're using. Ours around here are variable, and what I mean by that is I've got a charger that's maybe 6 miles away. Peak for them is 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. That means it's 54 cents a kilowatt. I've got another charger just down the road, about maybe 3 miles away, tends to be much busier. Their peak is 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. So they're catching the commuter traffic. I cheat, and I'll explain why I cheat in our next segment. But I pay anywhere from 21 cents a kilowatt to 31 cents peak if I'm charging off my home grid, and I'll explain why.
Yeah. Well, I would say, just to finish that topic, when's the best time to charge? Ultimately, the consumer is going to charge either when it's convenient or when it's cheap. And if they want to adjust consumer behavior, then price it
accordingly.
Absolutely, will affect the behavior that you want.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep.
So
yeah, Adam Blink
listen up, power companies, make it cheaper, because
Adam Blink.
The cost of electricity is too damn high.
So Adam is saying, this is why when California asked EV owners not to charge for the 9 during the heat wave, and everybody else is going, what? Most EV owners, myself included, basically just shrugged and said, whatever. I don't do that anyways. Most EV owners I know around me don't do that anyways. I'm running my AC, and I do have the power company. I gave them permission to turn my AC off during those times. That's my contribution.
Yeah, Austin Energy tries to get you to do that here, and I refuse. It's too I'm sorry, I'm not letting you turn my thermostat up. I have solar. My solar counteracts my AC. Sorry.
I don't have solar, so.
Adam says the best time charge for the climate, the same as the best time charge for one's wallet. I mean, no, not necessarily. It depends, but the power company should be pricing it, to Doug's point, to incentivize it. And because the vast majority of people are not going to change behavior for the climate versus their wallet.
No, they will change it for the pocket.
You're gonna optimize for wallet most of the time, or convenient times. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get there. But
sadly, the power companies are optimizing for their own wallets.
So. Of course,
correct.
They're the shareholders. Well, actually, they're public utilities.
So, all right. Let's see. We got one more comment I just want to touch on. Since the cost for FSD is now $15,000, do you guys think in the future hardware 4 will be offered as retrofit? Absolutely. I would be like stupefied if they didn't. Like it'd be dumbfounded if they didn't offer retrofits. In fact, one comment I'll say is, people talked about the whole radar removal and yada yada yada. I don't know if this is true. I haven't opened up my car, but I believe it was Green the Only, one of the famous online Tesla hacker guys that gets involved in looking at what's going on, claimed even that like the wiring harness for radar has still been there and it still is there, even though they removed radar from cars, because if they reintroduce it, they'll need to be able to retrofit it, right? So like, I definitely think they're planning on retrofitting for hardware 4, so I would not stress about that. But again, I have no insider info. This is just my own opinion. Oh yeah, Mr. Canada over there doesn't need air conditioning. Must be nice.
Must be nice.
I'll reiterate one thing about the FSD, and that just really drove home to me that Tesla really should have cameras on the nose of the car, because that creep function is so ridiculous as it's going on a 4-way stop, creeping forward, and it says creeping forward for visibility. You should already have it. You should already have it.
It's, you know what, Doug? There's going to be so many Teslas on the road. They don't need to creep forward because they'll have another car on the other side's camera telling you.
Right. We'll network them all together.
I mean, they'll all be networked.
That's an old idea. It'll be great if it got to that.
If it ever gets there, yeah, it'll be cool. All right, so we should move on. We got a couple more things to cover. All right, CCS adapters. So yeah, Adaptapalooza. We have covered CCS adapters, I feel like, to death in some of the previous episodes. However, there is big news. Tesla has finally released
finally
to all of the other markets, because they did have one that you could kind of get through Korea in the past, but they have finally released an official CCS adapter that I have purchased, as has Mike. We have already ordered ours.
Yep.
They're $250, which is actually cheaper than how it was to get in the past. I was surprised. I was expecting it to be more like, I was expecting to be more like 400 or 600, like the other ones have been. So yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on this? What do Doug? Do you plan on getting one? Do you think it's important?
I don't feel the need for it. I've seen plenty of superchargers when I need them, and I do occasionally see the Electrify America chargers. Years ago, I had a BMW i3, and I used the infrastructure that was there then, and it was terrible and unreliable. Either it was being used by an Uber driver, or it didn't work, or it took a long time too. So I'm not I don't. I'll probably get it eventually just to have it, to check it out or whatever, as since this is one of the things I do, I want to know about it, but I'm not beating down the door for it. The Tesla infrastructure is good enough that I can just rely on that, and at least where I need to go.
Sure. And Mike, obviously, like I did, you already ordered it.
I did.
What
are
you thinking about?
The day it was announced, I was on my phone and then on the website ordering it. And I thought it was kind of interesting in the ordering process. They check to see if your car is compatible. And I think they're trying to limit the inrush of people. Now,
Sure.
what's interesting is technically my car, 2019 Model 3, is not compatible. However, the day before, actually, it was literally the day before they released it, I had just swapped ECUs on my car along with a bundle of wires because it's an
Nice.
older car, and made mine CCS compatible. It now says CCS enabled on the dash. So when Tesla checked my car, however they want to check it, it came up as it's good to go. So they let me order the adapter.
Nice.
Yeah. Now we're actually going to do a little compare and contrast. We have in my shiny hands. Woo! Look at that. Woo!
This hideous CCS.
That's
plug.
right.
No.
Well, you got this nice
and the
elegant,
beautiful, nice little Tesla.
You got this nice, elegant Tesla connector, and then you got this behemoth, gargantuan, junky connector.
Yeah. So NA's comment, we all agree with you. He said it's good that Tesla's offering CCS, but I think supercharger should be the standard. CCS looks so big and bulky. Tesla seems to be well engineered.
We're right there with you.
100%.
We are right there with you.
The fact that Tesla's plug is not the standard is a failing on so many fronts. Just because of how small and easy and nice and compact it is. CCS is this giant honking thing that just so unwieldy, but it is the standard. You're not going to change that now. That ship has sailed. So having the adapter, I think, is good. Anyway. So Mike, give us some feedback. You've used CCS quite a bit.
So let's start with this. This is the A to Z connector adapter. It's actually very well made. It's substantial. You can see the CNC machine marks from the original mold. It's well put together. It works well. I've had up to 100 kilowatts going through it on my Model 3. In some ways, I think it's actually made a little too well. And what I mean by that is on this side here, where you put the CCS plug into, it can be a very snug fit depending on whose infrastructure you're using. There's been a huge variation between whose infrastructure I'm using at the moment, whether it's a BMC charger, a no-name charger, Loop, EVgo, EA, they're all a little different. And so when this is snug, as my wife found out, it's almost impossible for her to get it apart when the charge is completed. You really got to have some grip strength to pull it apart. And the only way to pull it apart is to really grab hold here and to pull. If you leave this plugged into your car and try to pull it apart, you risk breaking the locking mechanism that the Tesla has. And that's much more, that'd be very expensive.
Yeah, that's important.
And I will agree with Doug on his opinion on the CCS infrastructure as a rule. I've been actually charging CCS for 5 months now, primarily. I started with a C-Tech adapter, which is really a CHAdeMO in disguise. But I just had an EA charger yesterday at one of our biggest, highest priced malls called Spectrum. Every single charger was either broken, out of service, or it said, get a free charge on us today. And you go to try to use it, and it said invalid payment.
Sounds about right.
Nice. Doesn't it sound about right? So
they gave you a free charge.
They did.
You didn't get any power, but it was free.
But I mean, historically speaking, in the last 6 months, that's what I come to expect out of EA. It's a real hit and miss operation. EVgo seems to be a little more reliable, but there doesn't seem to be as many stations available, and they tend to be much smaller power-wise. They tend to be 50 kilowatt stations. And we won't even go into some of these, like up at Big Bear, which is a local tourist lake. There is a single CCS charger in the entire town, and it's behind a bank. And the 2 stations there, 4 plugs. That's 2 CHAdeMO, 2 CCS. One station was down completely. The other, the CCS worked, but the CHAdeMO was down. But again, that seems to be the pretty typical story of CCS infrastructure.
We need to come up with a way to financially incentivize places to maintain these plugs, like at a gas station, right? Like the gas station owns their own, gas pumps generally, or they're incentivized for those gas pumps to be working so they don't stay down very long.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of times the EV chargers, it's like a different company puts it in at the location. And if something goes wrong, it's
So we have some chargers down about 2 miles from where I live, which I'm at a lot. The landowner, the owner of the land, actually had some chargers put in, but he doesn't run them. One of the local businesses on the site runs them, but they don't actually fix them. There's a third party that has to be called to come in and fix them, but they don't manage the software. That's a fourth company that actually manages the software. I mean, it's insane. It is absolutely insane. So when something breaks, there's all this finger pointing of who's really at fault and who needs to fix it and who needs to pay for it. You know, it's nuts.
But, oh man. Well, hopefully
I will say 58 cents a kilowatt at the supercharger, 21 cents a kilowatt CCS prime time. So, I mean, there's a reason why you might want to look at it. If I'm on the road, I do road trips, and I've had issues with superchargers being broken. Like again, Big Bear Mountain, nearest supercharger is Lake Arrowhead, about 20 miles away, completely down. All 8 stations were completely down.
Ouch.
Yeah. So that little plug was a lifesaver. Even though I had to struggle with the charger, the fact I was able to charge, was a lifesaver.
Well, it sounds like that is nice to have as a backup. What do you use for the navigation? Like the other easy thing with the Teslas, I just, say where I want to go and it automatically puts in the supercharger.
So you can navigate with the Tesla software to a degree. It knows about EA charger stations. It knows about EVgo stations. It will not precondition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I typically do is I use PlugShare to find out my closest, fast charger, DC fast charger, and I'll pick a supercharger somewhere and say I'm going there and let the car precondition while I drive, to where I have to be for the charger. It's awkward at best. It really is. But it gets the job done.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, so there you go. It's a good backup potentially to have, and also you can maybe get better rates depending on
prices,
where
right?
You live. The prices may be better. So Mike and I, again, we both ordered them. We're waiting for the official Tesla ones. Mike will be able to give you a good comparison once those come in to say, how does this Tesla one stack up to these third-party ones?
Let's hope it works.
I still have never supercharged my car ever. I've only charged at home because I have 400 miles of range and I don't go that far. Anyway,
I have 215.
But anyway, so we'll definitely touch on this again once those come in. So moving on to our final topic of the day, which is hopefully very exciting. We have big news. We need a drum roll. Doug, where's the drum roll? No, there we go. Exciting news is obviously we all know the Tesla AI Day is coming up. It is on the 30th of September, so less than a week away. And it's this Friday. We are going to be doing a special live podcast starting 30 minutes before the scheduled time. So at 4:30 Pacific on Friday, September 30th, we will be starting a live stream where we will be live stream talking over and commentating on the Tesla AI Day. We'll not talk during the important stuff. We'll make comments in between so we don't miss any of the action. So if you want to hang out with us and watch Tesla AI Day and get our feedback, we have some expertise on machine learning and various technologies. So you can hear our thoughts there. And there may be fun games and bingo cards and drinking and all kinds of other things that happens. We'll see what happens. We may have a guest. I don't know. Well, we're still figuring out some of those things, but it should be a lot of fun. AI Day, people are calling this AI Day 2. That doesn't really make sense, as Doug pointed out before the podcast, because there's been more than one already. But whatever. AI Day 2, as folks want to call it, upcoming. Again, September 30th. This Friday, 4:30 Pacific, we will be starting live streaming on YouTube and Twitch. So come hang out and bring up questions and comments.
Join the party.
So do you think the timing of this FSD release is related to
100%
AI Day? But what's the connection?
You know, we're gonna have to find out all the new. I mean, I think they wanted to be able to say like, "Hey, look at all
Oh,
our
yeah.
awesome new AI stuff that we've been doing." And Elon, for those FSD nerds, Elon, such as myself, he has announced that the next version, so uh, point 3, so 10.69.3, is going to come out soon or right after AI Day. So basically, right after AI Day, they're going to be releasing the next big version, which supposedly has a bunch of bug fixes and improved stuff, and possibly will be going wider. Possibly will be on the newer version of software. So maybe people that didn't get in because of their software version, maybe you'll get in. We don't know. We'll find out. There's going to be some crazy stuff. I'm expecting another, humanoid bot, Tesla bot update.
Is it going to be like several of them dancing?
I think there might be
several people
like
in suits dancing in unison?
there's going to be multiple people dancing. I don't expect it to be like a Boston Dynamics full on robot, doing crazy stuff, but it'll be interesting to see. We'll have some pre-show predictions, I think, of the day. I think we're still figuring out what we want to do, and we'll see how well we do during the day. But anyway.
So the real reason for the wider FSD beta release was that at AI Day they can say, "Oh, we made some progress. We did something."
I feel like that's why they pushed it out before the day, is to basically say, "Hey, look, we did progress. We now have even more testers, and we made it even, went wide, and all our new models." And they're going to probably showcase some of that new modeling technology and how they're, their architecture, how they're doing some things. They've done it before in like some specialty conferences. They haven't actually done it to like the general public. And there'll probably be some new stuff. We do know that they've pulled some people off of FSD to work on the bot, Tesla bot. So there's definitely gonna be Tesla bot updates. They're coming up with I'm going to say it's probably going to be a Microsoft demo, right? The famous, anyone in industry knows the term Microsoft demo basically means it's all smoke and mirrors, and it's mostly BS. I mean, Steve Jobs did it too, even at Apple, right? He had times where he like held up a device and it's like there was no software to do anything. Right. It was just an empty shell. So I am expecting some of that around Tesla bot, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get a Cybertruck update. Probably not because it's AI focused, but who knows? Hardware 4 though, if that's a thing that's really coming, maybe they'll talk about it. They'll tell us what's new, the new radar stuff. It might bring that up. I mean, there's a lot of interesting topics that maybe will happen. We'll definitely get to see Elon do some awkward dancing of some kind, I would imagine. I don't know, or a robot. What's the difference? No, it's Elon is less robotic than Mark Zuckerberg. So
okay,
ooh, harsh.
I said he's less robotic. Sure, it's a low bar. Let's see. NAS, do we think the next version of SSD might have some improvement on enhanced summon after the AI Day? Maybe. Some people speculated on that. I have no idea. We'll see. Maybe realistically, they need to update these things, right? Like there's a lot of work to be done.
My summon stopped working. I don't know what the deal is with it.
It doesn't work anymore. Perfect.
Well, you can still tell it to move forward and move back, but for the past couple months, it's either been flaky or just not worked at all. It'll say it'll like start like literally on the app. It'll start glitching like between ready, not ready, ready, not ready, and then sometimes it just says something up with the visual system.
I've never even tried to use it
because all the autopilot stuff is still working. So I don't see like what would be up with the visual system that it wouldn't work. So I should just put in a service request on it.
See what happens. Yeah, I haven't used mine yet, but anyway, we may have updates on that on AI Day. Like I said, we'll come up with a pool of ideas and things that we think are going to happen that we'll go over before AI Day starts, and then we'll see how many we get right. May have some, like I said, drinking games and other types of fun things. But yeah, so it should be fun. So please tune in for that. Again, as always, we do love and appreciate all your support and comments and things that you guys are posting and whatever. Keep it coming. Keep that love coming and hate. We like hate too because we're masochists or something. I don't know. Right. Is that what it is, Mike? I think that's
I think so.
As always, it's great hanging out with you guys, with Mike. Doug, thank you so much for adding some input today since I didn't get a chance to drive my car in 2 weeks and try the beta. So as always, awesome. A big shout out to all of our producers and folks behind the scenes that help. I'm going to totally miss some names, but I'm going to try. So Doug, who's here, Danny and Adam and James and Joshua and Richie's, someone you'll find out about soon. And who am I missing? I don't know. There's more people. I apologize. And everyone else, you know, thanks for everything.
Everybody else.
You know, as always, feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube, social media, Tesla Motors Club website. You can become a supporting member. You can also buy things. There's vendors on there. I think that probably helps support the site as well. And yeah, keep it coming. This was episode 21. We will see you next time in 5 days on Friday at 4:30 Pacific for Tesla AI Day. See you there.
Laters.